What's up, guys? It's Scooter. I'm back with another episode of Good People Should Meet Good People. As you know, on this podcast, I want to sit and introduce you to amazing people, founders, creatives, professionals who are building, who are doing amazing things. And it's kind of the backdrop of West Peak, right? West Peak is a community for the world's top creatives, professionals, and entrepreneurs to learn, partner, and connect. In my experience of building companies, you can't do it in isolation, right? You need people there who can support you, who can open doors for you, and can remind you of the reason why you're doing this thing. And so today I want to introduce you guys to Bartholomew. He's an amazing entrepreneur running Cxffeeblack, which is it's more than a coffee company, man. It's revolutionary. He's redefining ownership. He's redefining the supply chain when it comes to coffee and roasting. He's been a TEDx speaker. He has been, noted as the most notable roaster of the year, right?
In the world.
In the world. Most notable. We're sitting with the most notable roaster in the world.
Claire, my wife is the roaster. You know what I'm saying? In the company, but Cxffeeblack as the company was, listed. So shout out to the queen. You know what I'm saying? She's doing her thing, and we're very grateful to be here. I'm honoring her in person. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
In spirit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I love that, and we're going to dive into that as well. I think there's definitely people out there who want to build with their partners, their spouses, their family. So excited to kind of dive into a lot of those things.
Yeah,
man.
Bro, for sure.
Yeah, how you feeling today?
I'm good, man. Today was just meetings, man. We just wrapped the raise, so I feel like it's just as busy as it was, if not busier prior, like right at the end of closing it, but a different type of work, you know what I'm saying? Being busy with money in the bank account just feel a little different. So
okay,
it's a good feeling. Still exhausting, but man, yeah, we're excited, bro. We're like a lot of our projects are getting ready to launch. The new building, the new grocery, B2B partners, grocery stores, that kind of stuff. So we're excited.
Okay,
yeah.
All right, a lot to dive into.
Yeah, for sure. How are you doing?
I'm amazing, man. Memphis is a special place,
Yes, sir.
Born and raised here. I've been here for a family reunion, so it's been good to get around like unconditional love.
Yep.
And I didn't plan it this way, I don't think, but the first two podcast guests have been from Memphis. You know what I'm saying? So
there we go.
Big
Memphis.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Which is special. So I'm excited to dive in and talk to you. Maybe let's start here, man. What do you love about Memphis? You're from here. You're building your company here.
Yeah.
Why is that important to you?
Man, I used to hate Memphis, bro. To be honest, like growing up, I grew up in Whitehaven, and we're kind of Whitehaven is a ex-burb, which just means that it was a suburb, kind of urban sprawl, suburban sprawl, but then it got incorporated back into the city as the city was looking for more tax money. You know what I'm saying? Okay. So it's like maybe 30 minutes away from downtown. Yep. Kind of the heart of things. So growing up, we didn't really see a lot.
They call it Blackhaven.
Yeah, we call it Blackhaven because of white flight. You know what I'm saying? And so Memphis, Whitehaven specifically is like a 92% black. Yep. Memphis is 70% black. Yep. And actually, socioeconomically, Whitehaven is pretty diverse. So you do have like your middle class, you have a small segment of people who are like upper middle class, and then you have the hood and the projects and so on and so forth. But man, I just I didn't see a lot growing up. Part of that was my parents keeping me safe. Like it was like, hey, stay in the house. So I just focused on school and going to church and watching anime, playing video games, and then that was kind of my life. But like I didn't have any really affinity for the city until I left Memphis and had some contacts. I could compare and contrast a little.
Where'd you go?
Went to Wheaton College, which is right outside of Chicago.
Okay.
And loved my time there, but it was a PWI, so you can assume like a lot of the insert traumatic racial experience happened.
Okay.
But also I got exposed to a bunch of stuff that I never would have seen if I didn't go there. And so like there's kind of like you take the good and the bad. It's funny, we were just there for vacation. We took our first vacation like 2 years after closing the raise.
Okay,
and
nice.
We went to Chicago, so I saw my mentors, like showed the kids around, and went back to the campus for the first time in a minute. And there's like a picture of like sophomore me, super nerdy, just like in a picture with one of my Korean homies, and they just snapped it, and it's been on the wall for 15 years.
Oh, nice.
So I'm like, y'all still have this picture up?
Yeah.
So we recreated it. It was hilarious.
Nice. It's special for the kids, I'm sure.
Yeah, it was. They were laughing like, "Dad, you didn't have any hair. This is crazy." Wow. But like going to a place like Wheaton and then being in places like Chicago, I got family on the west side. it kind of showed me what was so unique about Memphis that I had been taken for granted, and it really put a patch for me to move back and build here. Like, I love the things I got exposed to, like I said, the specialty coffee scene, getting into like graphic design and like streetwear, and like all that stuff happened in Chicago, which I'm grateful for. But the context it was happening was I noticed so much of like our culture being kind of riffed on in all these spaces. Like, you literally, it's funny, while we were literally in Chicago, we're in Ukrainian village at an Airbnb, and you can imagine there's not very many black people in like the Ukrainian village. But we're walking to a cafe that's in walking distance, and we go in. The coffee was decent. It was actually pretty good as far as like pour overs were concerned. We're not gonna get into the espresso, but like the pour overs were good. And you go in, and they got all these images of black folks on the wall, and like pictures of folks wearing grills, and like books by Pharrell, and like all this kind of like
our culture is a backdrop.
Aesthetic.
It's like aesthetic,
and we are not present. You know what I'm saying? And I will say it is different now. Like, when I got into the coffee scene, specifically the specialty coffee scene in Chicago, we really weren't there at all. It was like, you know, I was pretty much always the only person in the shop. Now you're seeing more people visiting, so I think that if you look at the National Coffee Association reports that come out, in the last 2 years, African Americans have been the fastest growing demographic ethnically for coffee consumption. 10 years ago, we were the lowest. You know, and the slowest.
Why do you think that? Why do you think we're the lowest in this? Because you didn't like coffee first.
Right? I hated coffee growing up. Yeah, my dad would be like, "You drink this Kenyan coffee." So
yeah,
I'm like, "Dad, that's gross." You know what I'm saying? I don't want to. I said this in the TED Talk, but I was like, the only way you catch me sipping is if I had a cup full of like powdery creamer, a cup full of the sugar, and I put a couple drops of coffee, mix it up. I used to call it a Trappuccino. You know what I'm saying? But that was the only way you would catch me sipping. But it wasn't until Chicago when I got exposed to like specialty coffee, and they're talking about like a wine, like notes of rhubarb and strawberry and like, you know, bergamot. I'm like, bro, y'all lying, man. Like, that's how I felt, because I was like, y'all capping. This is incorrect. Like, this is not true. Y'all are just full of it. But then you get in these conversations. I call them like ciphers almost, where like you're in this dialogue and we're all gathered around the bar and everybody's sipping and discussing the history of the coffee and that particular origin and the notes and the brew methodology, and all of a sudden like rhubarb don't sound too crazy. You know what I'm saying? It's like, actually, you know, now that I think about it, I had strawberry rhubarb party at one time at the white folks' house, and it did low-key taste like, and that was kind of a weird thing for me to see my perception and what I tasted start to change based on the community that I was becoming a part of. Because like, I never thought about what I tasted really growing up. Like, that wasn't, sensory experiences were not normal. Like, we tasted ingredients.
Correct. You
added strawberry flavor or syrup in it.
Correct.
You put red 40 in it.
Correct.
To make a strawberry drink. It's not like I'm drinking a naturally occurring plant or beverage and then I'm notes of strawberry because of the terroir are present. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not a normal experience for like a kid from Whitehaven. So I was like, dang, this is actually really dope. And I think it applies to so many other things. And I wanted to bring that back to Memphis because I think we had the bones to do what a lot of shops were kind of like doing, if I can be so bold to say, a blackface of with no sugar and cream, though we could do it here in a real way. I absolutely had to. And so I'm like, man, it gives you the opportunity to see something that like people are kind of getting at the essence of, but we could give you the pure and unadulterated version of that. And I think it would be like that much more visceral in the market, but also that much more explosive for the people who are experiencing it, because so many people had this affinity for our culture, but had never really experienced it because of preconceptions. Much in the same way people think about coffee, like, oh my gosh, like coffee's so bold, it's so bitter, it's so, I gotta put some sugar and cream in it first. Like, but it's like, actually, if you embrace it, you'll find it's much more complex and nuanced and, you know, layered than you would expect if you give it the opportunity. Yeah, you know, so that's why we say if you brew better, you do better. You know what I'm saying? Because it's not the beverage that's the problem. It's not the product that's the problem. It's the fact that the product hasn't received the proper process to allow you to be able to perceive what's really present. And I think that is what coffee allows us to ponder and be curious about every time we consume it. It's an opportunity to step closer to like a really fully expressed human experience, right? Where we can engage with each other from a perspective of curiosity and appreciation and not one of, you know, palate singularity. You know what I'm saying? Where it's just like, well, if it doesn't match this, then it can't be good. No, there's actually a lot of different goods you could experience if you open yourself up. And coffee is just a great way to find that out. And Memphis is a great place to show that to the world.
Now you get into coffee, you start getting more educated about it.
Yeah,
but it's
we
not
go all the way.
But it's not a profession
Down the rabbit hole. No,
right? At the time,
I'm just a nerd, bro.
Right.
So it's like anything, video games, anime, records, craft beers, like you name it. I was kind of like fonts. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I just was naturally like detail oriented. And I like that, you know what I'm saying? And I'm a writer. I've been working on music and poetry and like things like that my whole life. So, like, I just love words. I love being able to think about different options for a word. I love cadences. I love histories, cultures, art, like anything that's really allowing you to learn about a people or a place. The different literatures we create or mediums we create to interface with that, fascinated. So I was. Architecture, you know, you could pick a thing, and I probably spent way too much time going down the rabbit hole on it. And coffee it almost was like never ending. My wife said it's like a choose your own adventure, like a quest for me, because we would go early in our marriage. We would go on vacations and like, you know, we go to a place, and I'm like, I gotta try this coffee shop. I was researching it, and actually, I think they have the new like B60 that Haria just created. So you gotta, and I just go down the rabbit hole and spend hours there talking to the baristas. And I would always do it, and she's like, "This is like a quest or something. Like it's like never ending." I'm like, "Oh, they have coffee from Ecuador. I've never had that before." So it was an interesting experience, man. And like I think it just coffee always was presenting a new way for me to view it, and in doing so, it was a new way for me to see myself and my community. So it just was this crazy thing. I still find myself. I just bought like 2 new brewers today that this Korean dude created called the UFO Dripper. One of my homies, Lim Butler, who's like the world's first and only Black U.S. barista champion. He's on the board for the barista exchange we created with Vandy. Like he was like, "Hey, my homie made these brewers. They're like super shallow beds, so it allows you to do a finer grind, and you get a higher TDS or total dissolved solid when you brew, so you can pull out different flavors."
I love how you're just dropping it.
And I'm just like, I'm like, yo, I'm gonna get 2. You know what I'm saying? Maybe that's the new brewer for the shop, but also I low key just want to nerd out and try the recipes. So like I love that because it's always a new thing to explore.
I love this. I was just talking to a group earlier for this podcast about this, where you know nowadays it just feels like people don't, for lack of better terms, they don't give a shit. Like you know they're not like passionate about what they do, and so even we just started sitting down talking, and I can hear it kind of like oozing out of you, right? The way you talk about it. The energy, the speed, the passion, knowing the actual technical terms. You know, I'm excited to really, you know, dive in and share this with other people because I think it's important if you're building something that you want long lasting. I know you want Cxffeeblack to be around for a long time.
Forever, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so take me back to your partner, your wife, Renata, and you all meeting. Was the love for coffee there for both of you? And I guess
I was really using the love for coffee to try to holler.
I
was like, you know, first, so I'm doing music. I moved back from Chicago. I got my first show since I moved back to the city, so I'm trying to tap in. It's like a small show.
Yeah.
But you know, I had peeped her like they had a cipher like a couple weeks before, and I peeped her in the crowd. I was like, "Oh, shorty, kind of nice," you know what I'm saying? And you know, I always say the story. My homie was trying to holler. So like, you know, you got that dude in your crew who like he holler at everybody. Shout out to my homie Isaiah, you know what I'm saying? But he was like trying to spit, and he got shut down pretty quick. But when that happens, you like on your homie side, like, nah, bro, she whack, bro. Like, I can't believe she appreciate everything you have to offer. Like, nah, bro, bump that in. She wasn't worth it anyway. The next week, like, she come up to the merch table, and, you know, we start having a little vibe. I'm like, dang, man, I'm sorry, bro. You know what I'm saying? You know what?
She's actually great.
Yeah, she's actually pretty dope. And so we ended up, I asked her, like on a date to my favorite coffee shop at the time, which I believe was, what was that shop? It's downtown. It's on Main Street. It's like South City Brew or something.
Okay.
It wasn't Tap and Tap. Nah, it was, Bluff City. I think it was Bluff City Coffee.
Coffee for first date.
Yeah, bro. And I was like, yo, I tried it's dope because you can drink the lattes with no flavor. Like, I was like baby barista at the time.
Okay.
But I was in the pursuit of like, you know, drinking my coffee black. And I was going around like doing my own little experiments. Who has the best flavor profile if you don't have any syrups in the latte? Because that gives you a better idea of the coffee. And at the time, I really enjoyed theirs. And so, you know, no information that I had about origin or anything like that, but I just knew I liked it straight, you know.
And you're not really knowing that she likes coffee at the time. It's kind of
I just threw it out there because, you know, one of the things I really appreciated about my wife, especially like as a like black nerd, from a city like Memphis was that she never shamed me for being passionate or curious or like excited about something that kind of had piqued my interest. And a lot of times growing up, you kind of felt that, not just from like any particular gender, but just in general from the community. It's like, bro, you doing too much. Like, dad, bro,
why do you like that?
This is the thing about being from Memphis, bro. Is like they almost like we check you for being commendable. Dad, bro, you happy, ain't it? You know what I'm saying, bro? You excited, ain't it, bro? You fresh, ain't it? Like it's like it's like, dad, I'm doing something well, and you're like, you smart, ain't it, bro? You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. There's almost like a invisible barrier on like how geeked you can be about something, and that never happened with my wife, bro. Like every time I was excited about something, she was like my biggest cheerleader, and when like she was like a co-adventurer with me. Like anything I was like curious about exploring or learning, she would jump in there with me and like go and explore. And like, you know, I would go on these like into photography, so she would just go and I would just walk around and take pictures of graffiti in random cities, and she'd go with me or be like, hey, they got a record store, like let's pull up over here, and she'd go dig for records with me. Or you know, they got this coffee shop over here, I think they got this roaster from like Norway, can we let's get it. Never ever even questioned it, right? And like I had never experienced that either romantically or platonically. Like that was something for me. I was used to being kind of keeping my interest to myself.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
You don't want to get checked.
Yeah, you don't want to get checked, but also I think there's like more than the fear of getting checked, it was the fear of being alone. You know what I'm saying? And if I have to be alone, I'd rather choose to do it than be forced to do it. You know what I'm saying? And so like it's like, dang, I might as well go on my journey by myself. And so I would do that a lot. I just had this thing. I'm gonna just save it for like when I'm by myself, and I'll go do that thing. But she would always want to do that with me, and that was just a totally different experience for me. So from our first date all the way to our first Christmas of being married a year later, she was like, she bought me an espresso machine, and I was like, that was a whole other thing of growing up in like a low income home. Like shout out to my pops, he worked super hard. My mom worked super hard, but like you didn't really spend money on curiosities. It was a big deal, you know what I'm saying, when we got a PS1. You know what I'm saying? We was rocking the Atari, literally. You know what I'm saying? Like, my mom was like, you ain't finna, I'm not finna. My family was at Payless. You know what I'm saying? We was not buying anything that wasn't a necessity.
Yeah, essentials only.
Yeah, like we not even buying name brand tissue.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Did you keep that same mindset going into Wheaton in college? Where you
100%. Like, there were moments when I would tell my parents, like, yeah, I'm like shoveling snow and like cleaning bathrooms. Because I was on a full scholarship. So school was paid for, but anything outside of like tuition or food, like on my own. So I was like, I'm over here getting multiple jobs, cleaning bathrooms, shoveling snow, selling t-shirts, making CDs, whatever. And I remember I was home one like winter, and I was telling them like, yeah, bro, it was a tough, you know what I'm saying? I had to figure out what I was gonna eat, but we made it. And they're like, why'd you ask us for any money? And I was like, since when did we have money? Like, like since when did we have money for me to ask for it? Like, when did we transition? You know what I'm saying? But I think it was just, it became a habit of us just being frugal. And the bank account at some point changed, you know, maybe after, because we moved to the suburbs when I was like 14 or 15. Yeah. And I think at that point,
got that full ride.
Started,
so like, cool.
Yeah, they were like, we cool. Like, you could ask for whatever. And I'm still learning that now of like, it just never transitioned that like, you know, we were moving differently. But yeah, my wife, she bought that espresso machine for me, and that really opened my eyes. Like, oh, this could be more than just a hobby.
Okay. And I want to go to that moment because I think there may be people listening who have these curiosities. They share them with a partner, with a family member, with a friend, right? And it's like, how do we take that next step? So can you kind of maybe break down that moment where you guys were like, okay, hey, let's start Cxffeeblack, and where did it start and what form?
Well, there was a series of moments. You know, there was the moment when she got that first espresso machine. There was a moment when I lost my job right before the pandemic, and I was asking my wife, could I try to pursue this? I'm a person of faith, so I was like in a lot of prayer, talking to God, and like I feel like I got a thing to go try, and I would regret it if I didn't try it. So can I have a year of your time with you working a job for me to go try this?
As a single man, that's amazing to hear you talk about.
Bro, yeah, and I was like, I'm gonna not be, and we were both teachers at the time, so like we were making the same amount of money basically, but it was like, I'm gonna go do this. I mean, there was even the moment prior to that when I was asking my wife to use her gifts for a lot of things that she had never done before. So I was like, hey, that summer before, I did a concert series where we were at different coffee shops and we were selling Gucci Mane as merch. like a lot of people in the room were there. Like Daniel was there,
Yeah.
Omarion was there, and I was like, hey man, I really want to do this. Would you do the graphic design for it? And at the time, like the same way my wife was a fan of me, like I was a big cheerleader of hers. So like she used to write plays, and I would always be pushing her like, yo, you should do more writing. Like I took all her plays and like put them in a book. I like printed them out and like bound them into a book, and then like gave it to her as a gift. Like you're an author, you're a writer, like you can do this, like whatever you want to do. Or like she would do these little doodles. And I thought they were like, this is graphic design. Like, I'm buying you an iPad. Let me get you Procreate. Okay. Like, let me get you an Apple Pencil. Like, I would just do that.
So you both are supporting each other.
Yeah, but I was like a big fan of hers, and like I think that was kind of my responsibility as a man. And just like I think we live in this world where there's so much like tension around dating and gender roles, and like specifically the like black men, black women.
Sure.
I don't know. It's just that I'm glad I got into a relationship when I did, because a lot of stuff just doesn't make sense to me.
You're out of the matrix.
Yeah, I'm like, why are you worried about
what dates?
Why are you worried about what 100 people on the internet you never met and could never meet if you wanted to are doing in their relationship? Just find a person you like. Why are you worried about what all these women or all these men be doing? Like, find a person who makes you feel whole and who you make feel whole, and build with that person. Like, and that's the actual work. You put your energy into doing that, and find those people, meet that person, build with that person, build a life with that person. Like, so for us, it was just like, man, it was none of that stuff mattered, bro. It was just like, I actually think part of my role as a person is to like serve in your full realization as a human here on the planet while we're here. Like, I think that's a part of my job. Gotcha. I feel like I'm the best person on the planet.
That's my assignment.
Yes. So I want to help you do that. And it's crazy, just so crazy that you also want to do that in me. You know what I'm saying? So why wouldn't we spend our lives doing that with each other? And so it was just like part of my responsibility, I feel like, from God, was to like to serve this woman and like help her become what she's meant to be, fully realized. And she was doing the same thing in my life. But the moment when I asked her to use those skills specifically to help something that I was doing was a big moment. I was like, hey, we got this idea in the studio. We were joking around, but I actually think it could be hard. Like, what if we had a coffee called Gucci Man? You know, and then this design, which has like been our best selling product, you know what I'm saying, since it dropped. Like, she did that, like sitting at the crib off the iPad on Procreate. You know what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
Like 2018.
Love it.
I think, and like then
and it says work.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying. We got the 8-ball, the dime bags, and the bricks dropping soon too. So you know, we gonna definitely keep the culture present. Okay. But I was like, man, that was a moment. Then I asked her, would you be the roaster? And she had never roasted coffee before, just like she had never done graphic design before.
So you said, hey, like, I got this idea for a coffee. Can you make the logo? And then also, can you roast the coffee?
Now, a few years later, like, we had like a white label situation with my homie Kenny. He since sold his company, but shout out to Kenny Baker. But yeah, bro, like she was like she flew with me to see my mentor's operation in Baltimore. Shout out to Martine from Martine Mayorga. And like we all sat there and learned how to roast for a couple of days, and then we went back and was like, all right, let's do it.
And the coffee starts selling. I mean, I'm assuming.
Yeah, bro. No, like hotcakes, I couldn't keep it in stock. Like when we first dropped, we had like 50 pounds, and I was like, oh man, it'd take me a couple months. It sold in a week, and I was like, wow. But the value
proposition. How many bags can you make out of 50 pounds?
200 bags.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, amazing.
So and I had never sold coffee before, so I had only sold music and merch. You know what I'm saying? And then we sold coffee as basically like a VIP ticket experience to a concert, and it was like, okay, you get the album download. I was already doing like download cards and whatever, and you get the album and you get this bag of coffee.
Gotcha.
You know, and then we started getting people just, hey, can I just have the coffee? And then people were like, hey, I have a coffee shop in Little Rock. I have a coffee shop in Memphis. Can we carry it wholesale? And it just turned into this huge thing. And it was such a different value proposition for me. It was kind of weird having people that excited about something you make. Because, like, I was in music. So I'm a young black man trying to change my community. Hey, sir, would you buy my mixtape? You know, that value proposition and your conversion rate versus, hey, I'm a young black man trying to change my community. Would you buy my single origin anaerobic natural Gucci from the town of Moraga?
Wow. Yeah.
Just a way different conversion rate. So the numbers was kind of like, this is basically selling itself. And so I was like, dang, this is just, and also having a physical product that people could consume and taste and smell and hold was such a different experience versus selling music, which is like an idea. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? You can't touch music. For sure. And so like, and also because of the way music is marketed because of streaming, it was so diluted. Like his value was so diluted. It was 0.00035% or something crazy like that. Is that right? Is that the right number for how much a stream is?
It's like pennies.
Yeah, less than a penny, 0.002 or something like that.
It's like 0012.
Yeah, 0012. So I was like, that's crazy versus like I'm selling this mug $25 a bag and I can't keep them in stock. And then we got into the cans and I can keep those in stock and those are $5 a pop. So it was a different experience for me. Of course, there's also the cost of inventory and cash flow and like a lot of things I ran into as like a new businessman because I didn't go to school for business. Like I went to school for sociology and elementary education and like, you know, critical pedagogy and my master's work. And so like a lot of like social theory.
Right, you have a lot too, man. There's a lot of layers. I love it.
But I got into this into the business realm like almost by accident. But a big part of that was my wife and her just choosing to like believe in me. And I think for anybody like that relationship and your relationships are some of the biggest business decisions you ever make. Is who you choose to partner with and agree with. Covenant with, like those are bigger than who you even decide at the end of the day who your business partner is. Like I think you're deciding on your business partner years before you even know you want to have a business. Those are the people who are pouring into the foundation of who you are, who are living life with you. And I think that that's something, if anything, people can take away is like, man, choose your partners very wisely. Even before you start your business, you're building business partners.
No, that's critical. And real quick, just catch us up. We're in 2025 today. This moment when you actually start to produce Gucci Mane and it's like selling off the shelves, you start going to cans. What years was this?
So Gucci Mane really, so we started negative $700 in the bank when I lost my job. Right. So we're like, boy, what are we going to do? My wife gets a work from home job. The pandemic hits. I'm selling music from my website, D2C. So that was the first transition. I think I did $400 that first month. Okay, then we did $1,200. Then I dropped the album, and I was doing like drop shipping merch. But I dropped the album, we did $4,000 in a month on Shopify. I'm like, oh, this is dope. Okay, I might have something this is month 3.
Right, like the music maybe picking up.
Yeah. And then I remember George Floyd was assassinated, and I saw one of my homies. He made a post. Actually, he's the brother of my homie Tom. So shout out to Phil. Okay. Tom was a mentor in Chicago, but he dropped this like love black people like you love black culture, and I was like, yeah, can we say this to coffee too though? Because this coffee comes from black people. It's literally black in the way you drink it, and it was grown by black hands all around the world. And we get less than 1%. I didn't know that stat at the time, but it's not a lot, right? And so I'm like, boom. Love black people like you love black coffee. And we had some press, right? So like before that, we were in like the Sprudge 20 class, which is like Sprudge is like the XXL of coffee. Okay. So like I was like top 20 emerging coffee entrepreneurs in the country and like had been listed on there and carried in a bunch of other, local publications and had people talking about the idea because the branding was very disruptive and the story was disruptive and like.
So it happened really quickly.
Yeah, but then like we dropped that post. DMs flooded, comments flooded. I need this. Bet who's doing like some activist work. We're gonna donate to the bail bond, so we'll help support the movement. We did the shirts, and I will say I shout out to my mentor Ruslan for this. He's out in San Diego, but we were gonna drop ship everything, and he was like, "Bro, this is the heat press I use. This is the website I order my prints from. If you can pre-sell these, you can get enough money to start." Like
doing it all in house,
and you'll keep more of the profit. And I was like, okay, that's cool. So we put it out there, and I was like, I need to sell 20 shirts. And if I pre-sell 20 shirts, we can buy this heat press. It costs $400. I'll be able to order these prints, and then we can keep more margin and then donate more money to the Black Lives Matters bail bond. Okay. So that was what I wanted to do. At the end of the summer, we had sold like 2,000 various shirts, t-shirts. So like we went from a $4,000 a month to a $60,000 a month out of my house with this guy right here. Shout out Maria, and he's one of our head baristas.
Shout out, what's up, man?
Yeah, he's 10 at the time in my house, like printing t-shirts with us one at a time. On this one heat press, and so it was like a crash course in everything business. Wow. We started getting hit up by people who wanted to invest because when people were on the website, they would order other stuff too. So they're ordering the coffee, and they're like, actually, this is delicious. Can we sign up for that? Can we get a subscription program? Can we like interviews and press and all this other stuff started happening. And then from there, like that first year, we made like $166,000. The year before, I had made $800.
Yeah, wow.
So it was like, A big jump.
And now you had talked about your perspective on money, at least growing up in family.
Oh my gosh.
So how does that change now, being a business owner, having that money and knowing that you need to maybe scale operations?
I think I was scared, to be honest. Like, I was still afraid of the money, bro. Like, when we made it, I was scared to spend it. And then I was scared also to save it. I was scared of having it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I feel that.
It just was, like, weird because I was, like, to be honest, I was, like, a communist in college. You know what I'm saying? So, like, I was very, like, you know, socialist, Christian socialist, very, like, bro, we need to flip the system. Like, I was, like, pretty radical.
I'm not trying to be a billionaire.
No, bro, billionaires are evil, all this stuff, right? And so, like, you know, as I moved back and started working with the community as a teacher, obviously, like, I started needing money from my students and, like, supplies because the schools were under-resourced. And so we would do little fundraisers here and there. And what I started to notice was that, like, okay, this ideology, you know, as, like, noble as it is, still makes us dependent upon, like, entrepreneurs. Like, I'm dependent on entrepreneurs who are making way more money than me to decide to donate to my school that I'm building or that I'm working with. So, like, it's still capitalism, just by another name. Me being at this nonprofit is not me divesting from capitalism. And so, really, the decision became, like, it got to a point where, like I said, I lost my job because the school we had closed because a bunch of donors decided that they didn't want to give their donation amount. They didn't honor their pledge because the pandemic was coming. And so I'm sure that they had advisors who were telling them, hey, like, pull back all your assets. Like, you need to keep your money in-house. And so, like, I had a bunch of kids look at me in the face, like, what did we do wrong? Like, we had made promises about changing the community. It was a school right next to where my dad grew up in South Memphis. I was a performing arts coordinator. They had the English department. And I just, like, I never wanted to feel like that again. Like, I never wanted a commitment to a person who I wanted to dedicate my life to be dropped because somebody else decided the numbers didn't work. Like, if it's not going to work, I want it to be because I failed, not because somebody else decided they might fail and pull it out. And so, like, that transition for me at least let me know we can make our own money doing things that we already have, right, in the culture, in our community. So music, coffee, culture, all these things were already in my neighborhood or in the places where I descend from. And so I was like, man, okay, we got this. Like, let's use the same way I would flip my music, the same way I would sell merch. Okay, I'm gonna sell this coffee the same way, and it worked really well. A little bit too well. So, you know, $160,000 in the first year, and then it was, we were at 9 figures in the first 6 months. And this is for a physical product, so it's not like I had like a tech startup or anything like this. Is like CPG, you know what I'm saying? So it's kind of unheard of in the middle of the pandemic. And then we grew 50% year over year, every year.
Congratulations.
Yeah, man, we're grateful. And it was definitely a scenario where, like, I had to start thinking about, I had to relearn and unlearn and relearn even what an investor was. Even what it meant to be wealthy. Because, like I said, I was a nerd growing up. So the idea of who a wealthy person was like Lex Luthor. Growing up, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, it's crazy. I listen to Myron Golden a lot. He was talking about how that programming, like, even the things we consume in media teaches us to, like, be afraid of wealth. And it's not like wealth is not something to be afraid of. Like, if you believe that people are using it wrong, you be the person to use it correctly. But it was a different thing, bro, because the idea of, like I said, that first year we had investors hitting us up, hey, can we help you grow? Can we partner? And I was like adamant. Even though I wasn't a, like, socialist communist anymore, I was adamant just off the indie hip hop. Like,
it's like,
nah, bro, no label, no loans. Like, we getting this out the mud. And we did. And I'm glad. I think it was actually really good for us to have that, like, DIY bootstrap mentality. Until I had $60,000 invoices to pay.
And it's like scale.
You know, and then when it got to that point, I was like, I got to go to the farm. I got to go to the farm. It's 30 bands for me to get over here and, like, shoot this doc. And I want to tell the story. And so then we started doing GoFundMes. We started using crowdfunding as a way to kind of, like, fill that gap that an investor or a loan officer normally would. And that went really well. Like, the first, like, Coffee Back to Africa trip, you know, we won an award for that documentary, Best Film in Coffee. We're in a bunch of different film festivals, but, like, the funding to get there came from the community. I put the idea out there, again, kind of very detail oriented around, like, this is how much we need, this is what we need to use it for, this is the time I have to do it. And we had, I don't know, we had like $34,000 in 72 hours. You know what I'm saying? For people from all over the world just being like, hey, this black company wants to go learn the black history of coffee from the root. Like, we need to make this happen.
Most people are probably, like, apprehensive to do that. I think it sounds good in theory, and they're like, yeah, I want support, and I want to go do a GoFundMe, and I want to go do those things. What pushed you guys to have that confidence to say, hey, I'm going to ask peers in other people for money.
I think being a rapper, an indie rapper from Memphis, who's like an alternative rapper, if you can put that in there, like, bro, open mics were way harder. You know what I'm saying? Like, going to an open mic and asking a bunch of strangers to listen to your music, and like then going up after them, hey, how'd you like the song? Here's my Instagram. Like, I got a mixtape. Would you be interested in downloading it? Like, I got this merch. You're standing behind the merch table in real life and like waiting on people or trying to, hey man, what's going on? Appreciate you coming through today. Hey, that's way harder than asking strangers on the internet to support something you love and believe in, because at the end of the day, if they don't support you, they're just gonna not comment, or maybe throw a comment you can block or hide. But in real life, like, people come, they come take you. You know what I'm saying? Like, they come steal on you, or they can just check you. You know what I'm saying? And like, that's a way more difficult experience. So it wasn't. And then I think again, like, I grew up in the church, seeing my mom and my dad like in the community, like bringing groceries, kids at our house all the time. My dad was everybody's dad. My mom was everybody's mom. Like, I'm used to seeing the community leverage resources. And then in college, being more socially minded, more like socialists, whatever, like, we were always doing these like community fundraisers or projects. And then when we got into like being a teacher or fundraising to be able to get resources for the community,
so you're asking for money.
And then when I get into business, I'm pre-selling everything. So I'm doing pre-sale campaigns to launch all my products. So like, it was the same idea for me to like, hey, we want to do this thing. I'll give you this product later, which is the film. And if you help us support us, like, we'll be able to build it, you know? So it wasn't really a weird thing. The weirdest thing for me was, I think, like, the idea of going to Africa. Like, that was the weirdest thing for me, of like,
yeah,
what? Like, you can do that? Like, that was a weird thing for me, especially because in the coffee industry, people who go to Origin, which is what they said, like an Origin trip, like, it was always these really rich coffee bros, and like, that wasn't my experience. So I was like, am I even the kind of person, much like when we made our first 6 figures, I was like, am I the kind of person who can have this in life and who can have this experience? And like, it was a different thing for me to really just see myself in that place. And it to that point, I mean, we had a bunch of stuff that we went through, but even to that, I think that was one of my biggest weaknesses. It was one of my biggest strengths because I was very humble, and I didn't like, a lot of ways I don't think I saw what Cxffeeblack was in the beginning. Okay. Like, other people did, and I mean, like, obviously we just wrapped up $1 million capital raise, so it's something, right? Sure. But like, in the process of building it, it's like, I remember the first number I put together for when we met with Alainka, who from O's, who was like our wealth strategist for building the raise. She really helped us learn what we needed to do to launch it. Okay. I was like, man, I thought we were gonna need, like, I was like, how much money do you think you need to scale Cxffeeblack? 80,000, maybe, tentatively, sitting at their house in Atlanta, and like, bro, right, 80,000 is like the budget for 2 months. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's no way we could have been able to do that. But again, it was this idea of like not really seeing yourself or what you're building for what it truly is, because you don't see yourself as the type of person who can have that thing or build that thing. And that is not the actual skill set. And I want to like zoom in on that. It's not the skill set.
Right, because you got the skills. You're smart. You're talented. Like,
yeah. To your point, you're like, people are like, oh my gosh, how do you know so much about this? Like, you're so passionate, creative.
You know everything about
coffee. Yeah, it's like, wow, boom, boom. And that's why I did it. I literally did the TED Talk on coffee, right? So like, we've done these things.
This is after the TED Talk.
Well, no, TED Talk was last year, but to that point, I was the person who could do the TED Talk on coffee 2 years prior to it. Right. And we're at the Unapologetic right now. Neem was telling me after he did the TED Talk, like, bro, you should have a TED Talk. Like, do you want to do it? And again, I'm like, I don't know. Am I the person who can do this? And I think that we could have been where we are now 2 years earlier if I felt more comfortable with who I actually am and with what I actually bring to the table. And a lot of that is why drinking your coffee black is so important to me. It's not just about the beverage. It's not even about the sustainability, even though, yeah, coffee will be extinct in 60 years. We need to invest in origin and like the places where there are biodiversity if we want the research to happen. But at the end of the day, like, you as a person are just like that coffee. And there's so much more to your story if you're willing to give yourself the opportunity to bloom and to flourish and for all of your notes to shine. And like, that is what I love about coffee at the end of the day. Because if that's true for like this like weird indie rapper from Memphis who's a big nerd, that's true for so many other people on this planet if they'd be willing to consider themselves rightly.
Yeah. Bart, that was special. Thank you for sharing that.
For sure, man.
So there's a couple of things I want to touch on. The name Cxffeeblack, and it goes deeper, right? It's Black culture. Yeah. Obviously, where coffee originates from. I think when I first met you, you put me onto that.
Yeah, for sure.
Can you talk about why it's important name the brand Cxffeeblack.
Yeah.
What you're doing on the continent of Africa and how you're integrating it and really having this integrated supply chain, I guess, of all sorts, right?
Yeah,
and it's interesting that Memphis is in that.
Yeah.
You've got parts of Ethiopia in that.
We're building in Colombia now.
Okay, so I would love you to just break some of that down.
Yeah, for sure, man. So again, everything starts with the music, right? It starts with the culture. Cxffeeblack was just the name of the song. You know what I'm saying? My coffee black and bold. I gotta go. Ready to go, yeah. So that was kind of the song, and that turned into no sugar, no cream, please. Don't cover my dreams, breathe. And that turned into coffee stay black, just like me. Don't need no sugar, don't need no cream. So it was like a series of songs that was this evolving metaphor for like us as human beings, right? For like being able to be who we're created to be with no need for sugar and cream. Right. And that's true on multiple layers, culturally as black folks, but also just for all humans, also for you individually, also for the beverage itself. There's a lot of research that talks about how like the bioavailability of the health benefits in coffee are most bioavailable when it's black, right? Like your body, if there's like milk, proteins, and fats, or when there's sugar present, your body's going to absorb those other elements first, and so a lot of the other benefits of coffee kind of get lost. Don't even get there. Right? And you're dealing with, of course, like the higher caloric density there. And so, like, yeah, there's a lot of the stuff that's great for coffee is only there when it's black, you know. And I think that says a lot, right, on many different levels. And so it went from this idea that was in a song to, like, merch, like I mentioned earlier. Right. Maybe we can make the idea even more real. And then it turned into a space in our neighborhood, the Anti-Gentrification Coffee Club.
Which is an amazing space, by the way.
Yeah, thank you so much, bro. We're excited to open the new location. And then that turned into kind of a global movement because we started building these supply chain partnerships about being way more intentional about who we're spending our money with and like working directly with farmers and with people at origin. Like I said, less than 1% of the.
And when you say origin, just to make sure I'm clear, you're talking about
the countries where coffee is grown. Okay. Right. Yeah. And you know, coffee was discovered in Africa, grown by Africans around the world because of the slave trade. Like coffee was a colonial crop. Cash crop, just like sugar, tobacco, cotton. These are the things that we kind of associate with colonialism. Coffee was one too. And it was grown alongside indigenous people who were in slavery as well. And so when we think about this cash crop, it's like, oh wow, man, how much of that money goes to the African people who discovered it? And according to the president of Uganda, less than 1% goes to African countries. And so one, that's wrong morally. As an indie artist, I just understand the idea that the person who creates a thing should benefit in the finance from it, the most from it, that's right? You trying to start arguing. I got in trouble for saying the most, but at least they should benefit from it. You know what I'm saying? They should have a significant participation fiscally, and especially as a founder in the tech space, we see so many times somebody creates an idea for an app or a company. And, you know, we've all seen the Facebook movie, like, that person gets left out in the cold, and that's a story we can all say is bad, but this happens with so many commodities we consume every day.
I think to your point on just black culture, right? Yeah. Like we drive, you know, so much attention. We drive, you know, people to that coffee shop in Chicago. Yeah. You know, no disrespect to them, but we're not getting or seeing any of those profits. They're not even present in the coffee shop just as an aesthetic.
And part of it is because we're not being spoken to, right? So we're being like referenced, but we're not being spoken to. No one's including us. So you think about sampling, a lot of the issues that we found with sampling was like, it wasn't that like people weren't willing to they weren't even being told your song is being sampled. You know what I'm saying? It's just in that joint, and you find out, and that's where a lot of the animosity comes. And now we've kind of corrected that, right? Like before we even drop the song, we're going to clear the sample and reach out to you and include you in the process. Would you even like the idea of the topics being discussed here? But that doesn't really happen when it comes to our commodities, especially coffee. And so like a lot of decisions are being made without the people present to have power. And that's wrong, bro. But also outside of it being wrong, let's say it is right. It's just unsustainable. You know what I'm saying? Like just from a pure numbers perspective, coffee only has 60 harvests or so left. And if that's the case, the species we all consume, which is Arabica, is going to be gone for most of the planet. It will likely still be in Ethiopia because they have 3,000 plus indigenous varietals of that species. But like the rest of the world, where coffee's kind of been exported as a cash crop, like may not have Arabica in the next 30 harvests or 40 harvests or 60 harvests. So what's next? A world with no coffee? Probably not. So thankfully there are 119 other species on that continent of Africa. Wow. Many of them have been, at least, you know, a few of them have been exported around the world as well. But if we want those people to be willing to offer us their genetic diversity, there has to be a financial incentive for things to be different.
How did you begin those talks? You guys sit around the table and say, okay, let's be more intentional about where we, source our coffee, and then how do you go actually make that connection?
Internet, mostly. Like, it's just
like an IG DM?
Yeah. IG DMs, either people DMing me because they hear us talking, we have a podcast, so they're hearing the podcast, or they're reading an article.
Okay.
Or it's me on the internet, and one of my homies is like, yo, I'm working with so-and-so out of Ethiopia. We hop on a WhatsApp call, then we end up connecting, and like, hey, man, like Twitter,
It's always more simple than
it's so simple, bro. It's like a lot of it's just being very relational. And I think the other part is seeing people as people. That's a big part, and I think that's something my mom and my dad instilled in us early on. Like, going back to, your business partners are your partners before you ever start the business. And so, like, my mom and dad investing in building the principles that we built the business around. Like, grandma always said, God don't make no junk. And I took that literally, like, everybody who exists has a reason and a purpose, and value is generated when we understand that. Like, that's where we begin to create economic value, social value, artistic value. It's through the understanding of the created order. And so I'm like, okay, this person is not here by accident. We know that because there are people who spend millions of dollars to have a person and they can't.
Right, exactly.
So whenever it happens, there's value in that person existing, right? That value that can't be created independently. And so what does it mean for me to engage with that person and to try to pursue and understand that value and offer my own? That was just a part of the way we grew up.
And do you feel like they were looking for you as well? These coffee growers?
Yeah, bro, because so when we get to Ethiopia the first time, shout out to Mike Memo and Ture Waji, who are our hosts in Ethiopia. Mansour and his wife Nesru and like their family, they actually gave us our first Ethiopian names, which was a crazy experience. But we're on the farms, and specifically, I remember we're talking with folks in at Mansour's farm, and we're talking to one of the drivers, and they're like, bro, we've been waiting on African Americans to come here. Y'all never come. They're like, you're the first African Americans we've ever met on our farm.
Wow.
It's either, other Ethiopians, it's people from the Middle East, from Asia, or like, they would say like Mzungus, you know what I'm saying? Which is like East African for like white people. But they're like, hey, these are folks from Europe or Australia or America coming, but they're not us. They're not like, y'all are our relatives, y'all aren't here. And we would rather, this is in the documentary, if you speak Amharic, like you can do the translation. He's like, we would rather work with y'all, but you're not here.
Wow.
And they actually were bringing up George Floyd. One of the brothers was like, we see, his brother, his name was Muhammad. We met a lot of brothers named Muhammad, you know what I'm saying? But he was like, we see the disrespect y'all experience, because they were watching the George Floyd video at the time. And they were like, that's the same disrespect we get on these farms.
Okay.
When people come visit us, they won't shake our hands. They won't look us in the eye. They won't eat the food we prepare for them. Like our children are running up to give them a hug, and they're like, no, don't touch me. They won't stay at the home we prepare for them.
But they want our product.
But they want our product, and they want our picture to go back to the States and use that to sell this relationship direct source coffee. And they were like, bro, like, man, when I saw these people, I saw my mama. I saw like the farm. My mama grew up in Alabama. I saw my grandmama, my aunties, my uncles. Like, they built their house from scratch too, out of tin on the roof, and had a garden, and we used the restroom outside. We used to share bath water out the well. You know what I'm saying? That was my experience growing up, and these are some of the people I respected most in the world, who were artists and poets and creators as well as farmers. And so I saw all the notes. You know what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
And so I grew up seeing that. And so I'm in these people. I'm like, yo, these people are scientists, mathematicians, historians. Like, teach me how you see coffee. That's what I really wanted. Like, I don't want to go.
It's a great picture, and the space across from anti-gentrification of your wife. Learning how to roast, or what was
from Nesru. She's learning her first roasting ceremony from Nesru. And actually, on Juneteenth, on the 21st, we're doing the cookout with Unapologetic and with the Gloria Smith Foundation, A-Boss Family Foundation.
Shout out to Unapologetic.
Big shout out
Unapologetic right now.
And we're gonna do our first ever like Ethiopian coffee roasting and brewing ceremony for the community, hosted by the women of Cxffeeblack. So my wife and her apprentice Sydney, they're gonna be doing what we've learned in Ethiopia, because at this point they just traveled to Africa to learn with this too. So they'll be hosting it in our community.
Love it.
Which is a big deal. But like, bro, people were like, we want to partner with you all. We want y'all to learn this. And like, we saw these people as the world's foremost experts, because you've had this the longest.
Right. You had this product the longest.
If I want to learn about Facebook, I'm probably going to talk to the person who created Facebook.
Yeah.
If I want to learn about hip hop, I'm probably going to some of the folks in New York who innovated in hip hop. Like, you go to the source, like, that's just my DNA as like a rap nerd, is like, learn about a thing, you go to the person who created it. So these people have had this plant for 2,000 years, and you're telling me there's nothing we can learn from them besides like taking the raw product away? There's no processing ideology, no brewing information, no information on ways to experiment with like the way that we ferment it or other parts of the plant that we can consume, or ideas about how we could do like sustainable farm. There's no information here. All the information is in a lab in France. That's where I'm like, this is not logical. Outside of me being like a personal, like, Pan-Africanist, whatever, like, bump all that. Yeah. If I'm just trying to do math, 1 + 1 is 2.
Yeah.
If I want to know where the 2 come from, just go on the other side of the equal sign and look at what the 1 and the 1 are. Like, it just makes sense to me. Yeah. So I think it's a really strange way of like solving problems to go everywhere but the source of the solution. You know what I'm saying? Like, if the source of the sun doesn't have the solution, where else is it? In my opinion. So, yeah, we went because we wanted to learn, first and foremost. And we want to share what we learned and integrate that just as much as we integrate, like, the latest brewing mechanism from the homie in Korea. Like, that's interesting. I see people in Ethiopia who are farming and owning this culture as equal partners, if not greater partners, for me to learn from. Like, these are, you know, Kai just did the streaming university. Yeah. These are the professors I'm trying to learn from.
I'm going to go to streaming university. Yeah, exactly.
I'm trying to go to coffee university, bro. That's Ethiopia. You know what I'm saying? Like, it is, now we've learned more about other indigenous cultures like Uganda. And a lot of that is the research we're doing with Vanderbilt to try to get that information out. But yeah, bro, they was like, where y'all been? Like, we've been waiting to do business with you. And so it was such a cool moment to be able to come back and bring that to the community and to share that and have people look at that and be like, this not the like diaspora wars I saw on TikTok. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is not the stuff we heard about our communities meeting each other. It was different.
And how much coffee are you importing now from Africa?
Man, this year we're looking at 40 metric tons, bro.
Okay, wow.
Which is, it's the most we've ever done, but we are going to need it. Like I said, I just got off a call with one of our advisors, and he's looking at getting us into like up to 700 stores just in Tennessee. And like, then there's the RTD distribution for the product and the collaborative projects we're going to be dropping. Some of them with Unapologetic here and other artists and creators from Memphis. And then there's the instant coffee and the K-Cups and the cafe, and like, there's so much to be distributed, and we want to do it the right way. You know, what's unique about the way we're sourcing the coffee is not just who we're partnering with, but how we're partnering with them. Okay. And so like, we're paying 200 to 400% above fair trade pricing for all our coffees. The way we determine our pricing is based on cost of goods. So we're meeting and building and asking our farming partners, producers, if you will, like, we in the studio, let's get it, you know what I'm saying? Like, hey, what's the cost that it took you to make this beat or this bean? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. That's the cost we need to build our retail pricing around. And because of that, it's actually been really interesting. The market is so crazy right now, one, due to tariffs, but also even before that, like, coffee prices, which were for some commodity coffee, like the Folgers type coffee might have been 90 cents a pound, $1.20 a pound. They skyrocketed up to like $4.60 a pound, pushing $5 a pound. Wow. Which means the specialty coffee, which is the top 1%, those prices are, I mean, the floor just raised a lot. But our partners were all like, no, we're good. We're already paying a great price.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? Like, in fact, can we sell you more of the coffee? And like, we're in a time right now where people are hoarding green coffee. I had a roaster from Nashville hit me up. Hey, bro, can I drive down and get like 60 kilos off you? That's the first time that's happened legally probably ever. You know what I'm saying? Where somebody slid down from Cashville to get some legal kilos from Memphis. But he was like, nobody will sell me green coffee, and all my green coffee is like 4 weeks backed up. Because this, like, it's a precious commodity. People are like, I don't know if I'm going to get it for this price, so I have to hold it.
It's a great way. It's a great lesson that your intentionality has now like helped you.
It's just good business, man. Like, if I'm just thinking about what I learned from hip hop, right? Like, if I want to work with a producer, I probably should give them 50% of whatever we make. I should, like, that just makes sense, right? If they say, hey, this is the cost to buy the beat, if I want to keep working with them, I should pay that price to buy the beat. If I can't afford that, then I probably can't afford to work with them, and I need to find somebody who's willing to partner with me on an equity deal. But like, you have to partner with people in the way that makes sense for them if you want to have access to the things they create and that they specialize in. That's just hip hop to me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like the same thing came into it. Is like, hey, you tell me what the price is, bro. I'm not trying to talk about what they're doing in Vietnam or Brazil, hundreds and thousands of miles away. What does it have to do with your cost of goods? And at the end of the day, if you can't pay your cost of goods, then
you're not gonna be in business.
Then if I sell this product and people love it and they love who got it to me, you won't be here next month or next year, and then that means I'm losing money. Yeah. So like it's just good business, but it's also good ethics, and I think that most of the time those two things go together. Yeah. You know,
1,000%. And back to the community piece, right? Mm-hmm. So it feels like you're scaling the business, but sure. It's very important that the community has stake and ownership. You've mentioned some of the equity crowdfunds that you've done. Yeah. You all just raised $1 million, which is phenomenal. Crazy, bro. I think I met you maybe a week before it closed, which was great. I want you to tell a story about Miss Vernice. Because that stuck with me ever since you told me. And I think it also touches on the importance of community and ownership.
Yeah, man. I'll start with this, bro. We were raising for like almost 2 years, which is a long, like if you're in capital raise, it's a long time to be raising. And we had people who told us you should just close it, right? Mm-hmm. And I was in the midst of kind of like the last push. I think we ended up doing like right over 500K of commitments in like the We Funder. And I was right at like maybe 250. This was like February, I think, of this year. And I ain't gonna hold you, bro. I was discouraged. Like I was like, at that point, I was pretty much like a solo founder because my wife had to go back and get another job to hold down the family. Okay. We had just had like several break-ins over the holidays and had lost over like this is a large number of like inventory, coffee. Like everybody got broken into today. They broke into the middle school. They broke into the hardware shop next to us. It was just kind of like folks was trying to get Christmas presents. And so it was a tough season, bro, with all this news about people leaving Memphis.
Yeah, but you still stayed committed to Memphis even throughout.
100%, which just the power of God. I prayed about it, and God was like, nah, don't go anywhere. And I was like, that's crazy. That's crazy. But we did it, you know what I'm saying? And I'm not in the business of disobeying God. When he said do it, I'm going to do it. Cool. And it worked out. So but in that time, I'm like, I don't know if it's going to work out. You know what I'm saying? I'm still waiting and seeing if it's going to work, but I'm going to do it anyway. And we're in this position of like, man, I'm talking to consultants to see if we can loop in some people. We started trying to run ads, which actually ended up working really well. Yes. But I was kind of like, I was discouraged, bro. Like, it's not easy being a founder. And at the time, like I said, I was a solo founder. So we just had our staff, and I was the only person on the admin team doing anything because everybody else was like, this has been going on. Like, are we going to close this or not? I got to go work.
Gotcha.
Miss Vernice comes into the store. One of my neighbors, she actually knew Omarion growing up too. But she was notorious for like being one of the most gangster women in the neighborhood, like sweetest old lady, but she walked everywhere, like stray dogs, you know what I'm saying? Large gatherings of like, dubious individuals. She walking through whatever, right? Yeah. It was funny, A-Ball was like, yeah, she gangster, bro. Like that's real gang. Like we had just had an event and she was there. And it was like, man, she came and she handed me an envelope. And we have a first sip program. So, like, I'm not denying people, this is how I was raised. If you want good coffee, I think you should have access to it. And if you find out that it's really good, then you'll pay for it. Mm-hmm. And so, like, we have a first sip program where generally somebody's first sip with us is free if they live in a zip code. And so she was walking in and, I was thinking some people on their 30-second sip, it's still free. Yeah. So I thought Miss Vernice just wanted some coffee. And I was like getting ready to hand her a cup. Like, hey, Miss Vernice, give me 1 second. I just hopped off this call, but let me get you a cup of coffee. She was like, no, I wanted to give you this. And she hands me an envelope. And the envelope just says like, Cxffeeblack investment, $20. Mm. And I was like, Miss Vernice, you ain't got to do all that. Like, we'll get you the coffee. Like, you straight with us. And she was like, no, I want to be an owner in this business. Mm. I want to invest. This is my neighborhood. I want to have a say in how it goes. And so you said, what was it, $100? She said, yeah, okay, bet. I'll be back next week. And the next week she comes back with another envelope with another $20. Love it. And so on and so forth until she reaches like $120. And she invests in Cxffeeblack. The minimum on our community round was $100. And this is exactly why we did a community round. Gotcha. It's because we feel like we deserve, and our community deserve to enjoy the fruit of our labor. Right? And anybody should be able to have a say in the places that are theirs. It's her neighborhood, right? Yeah. But because of the way this business is, or this country is, and our communities are set up, is that oftentimes like you're just kind of relegated to being a backseat driver in your own life. You know what I'm saying?
Like some people feel that.
Bro, and if there's a way where our business can be a vehicle for people to begin to be in the driver's seat, then we'll do it, bro. If that means sharing equity, of course. Like I told you, we'd already basically been a community-owned business up until that point, whether it was from pre-orders, whether it was from people coming to volunteering, the internship, whether it was from the GoFundMes. People have been investing and supporting it already. Now we can put their support on paper, and it's something they can hand down to their children, not just as a good idea or a feeling. You know, Dr. Clyde Anderson talks about how our communities oftentimes only have symbolic power. You know what I'm saying? Like one person gets a thing and we all feel like we got it because we identify with that person. But we don't act, our bank accounts don't change because of that one person's success.
Sure.
And like this is an opportunity to turn that symbolic power into financial power. And so we wanted to do it, and Miss Vernice was like the perfect example of like why it was important. And I'm not gonna hold you, bro. That put a whole different type of win.
I bet. To
be able to close the raise, like all in, we were at like 500K at the time.
Okay.
And so I was like, bro, another 500K came not just because of her investment, but because of the encouragement. Like, wow, no, this is why we're staying in this neighborhood. This is why we're doubling down on our concept. This is why we're doubling down on our supply chain partners. This is why we pay the prices we pay for our coffee. This is why we treat our community the way we treat it, is because it really makes a difference. It matters for us to be able to provide opportunities for ownership, both in the coffee industry, in our own community, and in the world at large. And so, man, like Miss Vernice, like I'm always going to be grateful for her. We had a community brunch. We had folks who invested, 6 figures at that brunch eventually, which that's a whole other conversation of like the importance of in-person events for fundraising. But like, yeah, man, she was there and we put her at the seat of honor. She was the head of the table.
Okay, beautiful, as she should.
Yeah, bro. And like, so yeah, it was just such a big moment. Like, she's with my wife. We like celebrate. My wife opens up her computer and walks her through like, okay, Miss Vernice, like this is what you're gonna do. We're gonna hand you your cash back to you. That's yours. Now we're gonna take that 120. We're gonna sign up with an account on WeFunder and like invest the amount. You're gonna get dividends after we get through the first 18 months. Like, yeah, the whole process.
That's a beautiful process.
Dog, it was crazy, man. It was truly crazy. So grateful for her, man. She really saved our company. To be honest, man, she saved the raise because I was really considering, like, man, you just start asking all these questions, and she provided an answer. Like I said, the solution is generally found in the source of the sum. And like the people who put the 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1, those are the same people who solved the problem for the missing variable that we had, And so I'm just grateful for her because it was going back to the community, being present, listening, engaging. That gave us the answers we were looking for how to close the raise. And those kinds of events became the groundswell for bringing on the other larger investors who came toward the end of the raise to help us close.
You were about to touch on something about in-person events. I want to then get to what you're actually selling, the products, and sharing with people. But I think there's a lot of founders out there, entrepreneurs who need capital, right? And they need to find alternative ways. They may turn to the community. Can you talk about some of the strategy you used to raise $1 million? I mean, even if it did take 2 years, right? What was some of that?
I think that one, turning to the community. If you're turning to the community when you need money, you're probably too late. Right? Like it's kind of too late to turn to the community when you need the money. I think if the community is already there when you don't, and that you're sharing and investing, if that's a part of your ethos, then equity crowdfunding is a great route for you. I don't think it's a good fit for everybody. Gotcha. If you've been profit first over people for a really long time, bro, just keep going to the bank, you'll figure it out. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a lot of traditional venture capital funds that like, your P&L may be what it takes to get that capital to you. We had a great P&L. Like I told you, we were growing 50% year over year. But the biggest thing for us was like our growth came because of the community. It started at a concert. You know what I'm saying? At a coffee shop. And it grew from that concert in the coffee shop to a 6-figure year. And it grew from that into like the Black Supply Chain, the Anti-Gentrification Coffee Club. And like all of it was us sharing power and resources with our community. So when it came time to do, like I'll share this story, when it came time for us to launch the raise, part of what we had to do was get a lead investor on WeFunder who would invest at least $5,000. I have a Discord. In my Discord was one of my homies who was like, Jacob Love. He's like Black and Filipino, but he lives in Japan.
Shout out Jacob.
And he and his wife, they were like, we've been waiting 5 years for you to invest in Cxffeeblack. We have an account ready.
Oh, wow.
You know what I'm saying? They were like, we've been waiting to invest in Cxffeeblack for 5 years. I didn't even know I was going to take investment 5 years ago. Like, we knew it was going to happen, and we've been waiting because this means so much to us, right? So part of what we're doing is we're going to travel to Japan and get a chance to host events with them and like because they're coffee roasters as well, and they want to build community in Japan with what we're doing. But like, for somebody in Japan to have an account that they've been adding money into for 5 years,
business,
like that's why I'm saying if you're investing when it's time to ask money, it's too late. It's too late for somebody to start that account. They started for them, like those investors started preparing to invest 5 years before we ever knew we needed investment.
Copy.
So, in my opinion, yeah, for what we're building, the type of business we have, like it worked because we had already been sharing ownership with the community for so long. This was just a time for people to cash in on what they already had, right? To just do a transfer of accounts. And so for us, like community crowdfunding made a lot of sense, and it actually helped to translate the economic value that had been built through the community to other investors. So the crowdfunding investment round was like the translation of our value to like just the number of people and the rate of investment helped other people see the opportunity financially.
Right. The other investors, right?
Yeah, it helped some of the other. Like we did this with no traditional venture capital, so there were no large funds. It was individuals and it was families who came in and partnered with us. I think you know the Tates.
Yeah.
So the Tates came on and partnered. Yeah, come on, bro. We've had we had the James family from Castle Retail come on. Okay. People like Carmiana Hamilton. A lot of individuals came on. We had somebody from the Food Network. Okay. Somebody from the Specialty Coffee Association of America. Like we had these different entities who were kind of like innovators and visionaries in their own space and saw how what we're doing could be a part of their own story. And they chose to partner with it. But the community were the people who ushered us into the platform and gave people the opportunity to tangibly see the value we have been building. So the community was instrumental, right? They were our like language translators for us to speak to the financial market. And it was important, bro, because they really brought us an opportunity to talk about the power of community to folks who have been interested in it, but didn't have a clear example of what that would look like, especially in a space like specialty coffee of all things. Yeah. And then a key element of activating that and building that was hosting in-person events. Okay. And so, like, you know, the ads definitely helped. I actually would have ran ads way earlier because it spread a lot of awareness, if nothing else, within the community about what we're doing. Yeah. And we leveraged the TED Talk for a lot of the ads, as well as like the International Global Roaster Award. Yep. So those assets were really helpful. Again, things we had already been doing. But yeah, the events were crazy. That was what brought the partnership with A-Ball. Was like hosting an event and his son Lace showing up to that event just because a friend invited him and seeing what we're building and seeing the vision and like me casting that vision. I have a friend, actually a WeFunder investor, Tremaine, who's also a roaster down in Houston. Shout out Padiri Coffee Co. But he's like, the key is like, this is from his background as a preacher. Is like, I was always told like gather people and cast vision. Like that's the key for growing anything. And like the same thing was true for our business. Like I just happened to be really good at that. You know what I'm saying? Okay. Like it was stuff that I had learned in community work, learned as an MC, stuff I had learned as an educator, stuff I had learned in the church, just like gathering people and casting a vision that's very compelling. Like in doing that in the space where the vision will grow shows people the economic need more than any slide or P&L or, you know, investor debt could. Like those things are important because they also show like competency in a lot of areas and can get to a lot of the nitty gritty, but like the digital pitches where I'm on a Zoom call with somebody, like maybe which this number was also really good, but like we had like a 50% conversion rate in those experiences. Sure. But like in person, amazing. Yeah. Okay. 70%, 75% conversion. And so it was really, 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 really powerful. And the rate of investment was also much more significant when we had those in-person experiences. And so like for us, and I would also recommend for anyone who is really looking to build a community product or experience, like leverage the opportunity to give experiences. And I think especially in a post-COVID world where everything is online, offering people a real experience and an opportunity to have real tangible assets is like super important. For sure. You know what I'm saying? And so definitely would highly recommend it. That, and like I said, as well as like build a community. If you're gonna offer the community equity, it needs to be something they want equity in. You know what I'm saying? So I will say on WeFunder, you know, they have a lot of other products that also do very well. Some of them especially are like clear use case products, like medical products. Sure. People can see very clearly this is a thing that will solve a physical problem. Yeah. And those can do really well with like people who are specifically on the platform looking to invest. But when it comes to activating a community and getting them to log onto a platform that they don't know anything about, it was because they already had value and they were looking for any way to be able to make sure that they guaranteed that stayed in their community and in their families.
A master class of gems right there.
Hey,
thank you so much. Speaking of activating community, there's people listening right now all across the country, across the world. How can they support Cxffeeblack today?
Sign up.
Obviously, come to Memphis and come to the
pull up.
Anti-Gentrification Club, which I think is great.
You know what I'm saying?
But where else can they support?
I mean, one of the best ways to support is definitely a coffee subscription. We're putting a lot of work into rebranding and growing that and making that a really dope experience. So a lot of what we've given people in person, we want to offer through the subscription program. And so, we're working with our new COO, Ryan Tober. He just exited True Color Bandages. If you remember, they were in Target.
Oh, yeah.
Like the melanated bandages.
All right.
Also a Wheaton alum. And so, he just joined the team officially this year. And so we're doing a lot of work on like revamping our subscription experience and our online experience. We're going to be launching curriculum, Cxffeeblack University. So a lot of the stuff you hear me talk about as far as like learning about coffee, you can get into that too. You want to build your own home barista experience. You want to launch a little mini coffee club in your neighborhood, or you just tired of drinking gross, bitter coffee, like we'll be able to help solve a lot of those problems. So I definitely say sign up for our coffee subscription and look out for the opportunity to get in some of those virtual courses and classes. But also we're going to be building a lot more B2B partnerships. And so really excited about growing in other retail spaces, partnering with other folks who are looking to have coffee manufactured for them, grocery stores, those kinds of things, other cafes. So we kind of have held off on that. Prior to the raise, our big focus was like building the supply chain and like our D2C experiences.
Right.
But now, like I said, we just launched in 5 stores here locally. We're super excited about that.
Yeah.
And looking
That's
at
major, by the way.
So come on, bro. Yeah, I did the personal delivery into my neighborhood, Black Haven, White Haven.
Okay.
I did that myself.
It's beautiful.
Seeing one of my old church members there, and her son actually, Key Darius, was our first manager at the cafe. And now he's doing his own entrepreneurial journey. But I'm like, man, bro. So she was like, y'all coffee here, and I'm like, literally with my middle son Freeman doing the drop, like, she's like, oh my gosh, like, I'm like, she's gonna be our best salesman.
Yeah.
Here, you know what I'm saying? Like, I couldn't ask for a better experience. Everybody in the store was like, what are y'all doing? And so again, like that community experience is also like all those 500 investors and all the hundreds and thousands of people who didn't invest but still like this is their business too.
Yeah.
They're gonna be our best advocates for this $25 bag of coffee, like Gucci Mane. You know what I'm saying? And so like that's what's really shifting the mentality, and that's activating a market. I think the black dollar is like, what is it, $2 trillion, $1.2 trillion. And for the most part, there's really no representation in the specialty coffee market. And so, of course, our product is world class. Coffee lovers, coffee snobs are like super excited about it. But also, there's a group of people who've never considered coffee who we've created the perfect product for them to get introduced to, whether it's the beverages, the coffee lemonades.
I mean, I was not a coffee drinker, and the fact that I sat here and drank a whole cold brew, like,
come on, bro,
that's different for me specifically.
It's not cold brew.
It's gold brew, right? Exactly.
Yeah, but those moments like that are just so dope, bro. And so, like, it's undeniable at this point, and being able to bring that to so many people, we're excited. We want to do more. So, if you're interested in like getting something like Cxffeeblack into your space, let me know. I'm also taking some speaking engagements this year. If you're interested in me coming and doing more, and then sign up if nothing else for the email list and the coffee subscription, because we have a lot of really dope stuff launched. So next month I talked about all these other species of coffee that exist. So we're actually going to be like importing 2 alternative species to Arabica and doing like a tasting box where you get the little dime bags of each one, as well as a blend of all 3 species that we have available currently. And that joint is, we were doing the samples, the cupping for that today, and it tastes amazing. Like, it's just so layered and complex. So,
I love it.
Yeah, bro. We call it a family reunion. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
It's time to bring the family together, and we're dropping it on Juneteenth because why not? It's time for the cookout. So,
man,
I'm super excited.
Oh, beautiful! Yeah, it gets me excited to hear how, again, the intentionality and how it feels so organic, authentic. I'm meeting your brother, meeting folks from your team here, and it's just like. Knowing that it's all being built right here out of Memphis.
Yeah, bro.
Knowing that it's, again, just rolling up the sleeves and making it happen. I think so often, we read headlines. I think I was explaining earlier, you read headlines and you're sitting at home like, man, that person must be like special and one of a kind to be able to do this, you know? And so for you to share the story and be vulnerable and open about, starting with negative $700. Like, I think people hopefully are listening and appreciating that. For sure, man. Thank you. Thank you so much for doing this. I hit you up yesterday. I said, hey, let's make it happen. And you were gracious enough to do that. I'm excited to see, where this brand goes later this year, next 5 years, next 10 years. My sister and I are proud investors, and so we're excited about that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And I think good people should meet good people.
Come on, bro.
And I'm glad to have met you. I'm hoping that the people who are listening to this and watching this have met your story today. Sir. And just thank you, man. Honestly, I think this is a phenomenal episode, and I'm excited to give this to people.
Pleasure to be here, bro. I'll leave with this. When we went to Ethiopia the first time, out of all the things they taught us, one of the most impactful was that coffee not only is like a blessing to consume, but actually comes with a traditional blessing when it's served. And that's one of the many things that got lost when it was stolen. And so that blessing is Bunaf Nagea and Dabina in the Afana Romo language. It means, may your house lack no coffee nor peace. My favorite translation is, wherever there's coffee, there must also be peace, because it kind of feels like a contract with the land about how we're supposed to engage with each other in creation. Okay. And I'll leave y'all with that blessing, man. May your house lack no coffee nor peace. Keep that coffee black. Appreciate you.
Yeah, no, you heard it here first, man. Yeah. Thank you so much. That's been episode 2.
For sure.
Thank you, man.
Sir.
I appreciate you.
Boom. For sure. Appreciate you, bro.
That's all I got.
All right.
That was actually really good.
Yeah, thank you, man. That was phenomenal.
Let's get it.